1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
I am confident that 1, 2, 3 made it into the stream. 100% confident.
Yeah.
60% of the time it works. Every time. How you doing?
Oh, it's been a day.
It has been a day.
I muted you, phone.
It's a day that ended in Y. So
It is a day that ended in Y.
I do have to preface this with I'm on call. So if my work phone starts ringing because Alberta's on fire, I need to leave.
Understandable.
But thank you for
to have a drink while it's something.
Yeah, I am actually.
Okay.
As long as I'm sensible about it. It's all good.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to Legends of Logomancy, and specifically Roll for Beer, the best beer drinking podcast that Alberta has ever seen related to tabletop gaming. That maths out.
Yes.
It works.
That maths out.
Tonight we is our season finale for season 1. Actually, this marks episode 12.
Woo!
And it's still going. It's a thing.
Yep. This one's a little bit later than we would have liked, but I mean, it's what it is.
Can't drink beer on antibiotics, and that's fair. It just pushes back a filming schedule.
No.
Don't get sick, and you'll be fine. So
exactly. It's fine.
We had a really eventful month. Last month.
Yes.
Beer Fest was great. And we made a lot of friends and a lot of contacts on stuff, and that's going to be really, really exciting.
At least one enemy.
Well, I mean, Grizzly Paw. No.
Grizzly Paw.
He was so cool. He had the best cowboy outfit ever.
They're all really good people. I like Grizzly Paw people.
But no, we've got quite a bit of stuff coming up for June. We have a booth at GameCon. We're running the Make-A-Wish booth, and I won't be there because I will be camping with my beautiful redheaded children.
I, however, will be there.
Most certainly. Hawk and merch with David, another beautiful bearded gentleman. We're going to be running the Make-A-Wish International booth. We're partnering with Kobold Press. If you find yourself down there, or if you're looking for tickets, we still have a bunch of passes for our subscribers that we might be able to help out with. Kobold Press was super cool, and they were like, "Hey guys, charity, absolutely. Have a full pallet full of 5th edition books to give out to your subscribers and folks that are supporting your charity run."
We need to just take a picture of that pallet just so people can actually go oh, that is a pallet of books.
I can't park in my garage. It's a thing. So yeah, come October, we're going to be heading up the Roll for Wishes charity stream. It's annual for us now. We've been doing this for a couple of years. It is 12 hours of continuous tabletop RPGs, usually broken down into 2-hour segments, and then we take a break because we're people and we have stuff to do in between, like eat. We've got some guests booked in at this point, a few recognizable streamers, hopefully a couple more waiting in the wings. We'll see how it goes. And in a perfect world, we're either going to do 5th edition or we're going to look at Tales of the Valiant. Because I mean, if the system is prepped far enough along that we can get a reasonably compelling 12-hour game out of it that is mechanically sound and everything's super awesome, absolutely, I'm totally on board.
Let's go for it.
For giving something a go. So, but
exactly,
this isn't charity TTRPG stream night. This is Roll for Beer night, and Something about
there's a
that.
thing that we do. I'm a little out of practice here. What do we do again?
You know, I have to find dice. Give me a sec. Spin a little bit. I'm gonna, because
Yep.
I have 4 beers, so I'm going to rely on my
too have 4 beers.
trusty 12-sided die that our good friend Melissa gave me for Christmas.
I have the cattle trop, also known as a D4.
Oh, the caltrop.
Is that what they're called? Cattle.
Yeah.
Caltrop. Caltrop.
Yeah.
Cattle trop.
Single point of piercing damage. One of those things. More deadly than Legos. 3, 2, 1.
Very much so.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Take the dice out of your glass, Riley.
No, never.
Tonight.
Where's my bottle opener? Ah! I was prepared! Go ahead with your beer. Go ahead with your beer.
It has been a while. Tonight, our newest sponsor, Vacay Brew Co. And you can kind of catch it off the end of the, yeah.
Ooh, the Hidden Dragon.
Gonna be drinking Hidden Dragon, a salted black lager, 5.2%. It's got a sick ass blue dragon on the can. Vacay Brew Co. is here in Calgary. They're a microbrewery. The 2 of the beers that I had slated for tonight were either Crouching Tiger or Hidden Dragon, and I'll start with the Hidden Dragon. This is because we tried this when we met up with Brad at the Brew Co.
Yep.
And this reminded me a lot of because it's a salted lager.
Yep.
But I like oyster stouts.
Yes, I know
because they've got a good salty mix to it, and this is what that reminded me of. Even though it's not a stout by any stretch, it's just dark and delicious.
Fair, and I mean it is a really nice balanced beer. I think salt should be used in beers when we're making beers, especially lagers and gozas. They normally bring out these these really nice flavors and really just kind of balance out the tongue a bit. But
well, and it's interesting because beer is always served with salty food and salted nuts, and
very much so, because salt makes you want to drink more. This is Fieldhouse, Blackberry, Blueberry, Vanilla Imperial Stout.
Fieldhouse out
of Abbotsford, BC. This is a 11% Imperial Stout. With obviously blackberries, blueberries, as it said. And this notes here we go. This beer was inspired by our heavy fruited dark sour. We took the same fruits and switched the base to a big, bold Imperial Stout. Big notes of chocolate, vanilla, blueberry, and blackberry with a silky sweet flavor and mouthfeel.
What's the brew name again?
It doesn't have a name. It is Blackberry, Blueberry, Vanilla Imperial Stout.
Hey. Imperial Stout. I'm just updating the doobly-doo.
Yeah, the doobly-doos. All right.
I won't remember.
All right.
By Fieldhouse.
Now time for the second part of the podcast.
The ASMR section.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Oh, it's all over my shirt. One of these days.
One of these days.
Oh. So
now, for the viewing audience,
for the folks specifically watching on YouTube, that said, given the number of folks that are viewing at this point, this is available where all fine podcasts are consumed. Technically, even Apple Music. I didn't put it on there, but it shows up there according to our analytics. I don't know. One of the distribution systems I use must send it their way. So that looks like a can of frothy Coca-Cola, my friend. It's thick.
Mm. I wanted to pull out a cool special bottle for the final episode of the season. Oh.
See, it's just salty enough.
Mm-hmm. So this guy here, yeah, you're getting that. You're getting a lot more of that blueberry on there. Blackberry kind of gets a little hidden by blueberry, I feel personally.
Mhm.
The color, as you can tell, pitch black,
Yeah.
like wonderful deep brown. Little bit of that vanilla just comes through just to cut that imperial sweetness. Ooh, or imperial sweetness. That imperial, like just that thick imperial beer, like really, really nice. Hmm.
Perfect. Need me Dragonstein.
It's got a little bit of sour on it,
Mhm.
but that's just like fruit sour, like that like tardiness from uh absolutely just wonderful, like fresh, like that's where the blackberries are coming through, is
Mhm.
that bit of tartness.
Yeah.
It's like they're taking specific things and trying to find what will balance in a beer. And this is one of the fun things about going for my Cicerone and trying out for that, is because I'm trying my best to get better at describing what I'm tasting. I
That's fair.
want to get better at pulling out certain aspects of a beer so then I can relay that in different ways. Um, this is a very strong beer, but the alcohol isn't hitting as hard. Like you don't taste that 11%.
Mhm.
But there's this wonderful, like I said, that tartness, and then that, like, have you ever had like fresh blueberries?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
had
you
some
get that.
today.
Yeah, they're when you have fresh blueberries, you get that like nice bit of like burst of flavor, and then it just dissipates really quickly.
Mhm.
Same kind of a thing going on with this, is you get that blueberry up front, that tartness from the blackberries, a little bit of vanilla sweetness, and all these things are just playing together,
Yeah.
trying to find those specific points that uh, make the beer. And why did they choose to put salt in your beer? Why do they choose to use the darker malts for that beer?
Y
What are the different kind of things they're trying to do? It, and that's kind of what the beer topic of tonight is how does a brewery choose what the hell they make?
Well, and, like, you had talked about, because 'cause you're doing that beer advent calendar with work,
Yes,
and
I am.
that got me thinking about, like, we we do a lot of different, TTRPG systems on our stream and try out different
Yeah,
things. And things like, we're playing through GURPS right now, and GURPS
very
does
interesting system.
it's a very robust system for certain.
It's,
Um,
mhm,
and you had talked about when you're doing your Cicerone, being able to pull out a lot
mhm.
of those key notes, but like between different flavors and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I like the idea of pairing that up with the kind of game design stuff that we do, because
Mhm.
we have our own gaming system, the super basic
Yep.
dungeon crawler, the Nailer system,
Yeah.
and being able to pull out a lot of those elements in beverages of, like, what do I want? I specifically want that kind of hops for this very specific element that it adds in, because it benefits the whole.
Mhm.
And it's not perfect for everything,
Yes.
but for this thing, this is what I want to do. And
So I was sorry, you finish your thought. You had a thought there.
um so what I wanted to relate that to is, we we homebrew stuff all the time, and
Mhm.
you take
Mm,
inspiration
mm.
from this, that, and the other. And I love the
Yes.
idea of taking things from different systems and applying them through, right? There's stuff that we
Yeah.
pulled from old versions of D&D that I still continue on with. There's stuff that I'm going to absolutely steal from GURPS because it makes sense to do so. Um,
And I was about to say breweries do this too.
mhm,
Like a lot of the times when they're picking and choosing their beers and what beers they want to make, there are over, I think it's over 80 to 90 different varietals of hops available in the commercial market.
mhm,
There's obviously a lot of other kind of experimental ones and things like that, but 80 to 90, like these are well-known hops.
mhm,
And just like in gaming systems, picking and choosing certain hops to go with certain styles of beer, certain malts, certain hell, water, certain yeast strains, things like that. Like there's a lot to picking hops for the styles of beer.
mhm,
There, of course, are the very, I wouldn't say basic, but very well known hop varietals. You've probably heard me even say them on the podcast multiple times:
mhm.
Vanguard, Mosaic, Galaxy. Um,
Is Galaxy that Australian one that was in that Anchorage, Alaska beer on the last episode?
yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And like there's all these different types of hops, and they all provide different um flavors, basically,
Mhm,
and different aspects to the beer. Some of them add that peppery note, some of them add that grapefruit note, some of them are even adding mint and coconut
mhm.
to a certain point.
Yeah.
Tangerine. And so it's about picking and choosing. If I want a beer to be done at a quicker pace, there might be certain yeast strains I use,
Yeah.
because certain yeast strains are more active than others.
Mhm.
A friend of mine who is a home brewer, he
A
resurrected
home
yeast.
a home brewer or a home brewer? A
Home
brewer at
brewer,
home.
a brewer at home. Um,
Interesting connection there actually. I
yes,
never I
exactly.
never thought of that.
Are
Yep.
they home brewing or are they brewing at home?
Yeah.
And Byron, absolutely wonderful human being. But he resurrected a yeast strain one time.
Mhm,
Basically, he found a yeast and it was dead, so he tried to propagate it. He
mhm.
tried to get it to going again, and he did. And he effectively made what is lovingly referred to as a zombie yeast.
Okay.
It's kind of it's just when brewers get yeast to come back from the dead, basically.
Understood. Okay.
And he this was like the most active yeast he's ever used. It
Mhm.
literally punched the beer into overdrive and was like, "Cool, we're brewing, we're freaking brewing." And he was just like, this cut like a week off my brewing time. It can't always be replicated,
Mhm,
but sometimes yeasts just do what the hell they want to do.
mhm.
And that becomes part of that picking and choosing. It's almost like the randomness of dice.
Funny how that works.
Funny how that works. Wait a minute. Are brewing and RPGs that similar to each other?
Look, I wasn't gonna say it, but we've kind of based an entire podcast around a lot of the seminal differences on everything. But
Wait, this is a podcast?
funny how that works. So on on that topic, on
Yes.
the side of picking and choosing,
Mhm.
I wanna kind of go and it puts you on the spot a little bit.
Hmm.
I want to go back and forth because you love a lot of different systems, like
Yes.
I Iron Kingdoms.
Yes.
What is your favorite mechanic out of Iron Kingdoms that you frankly shoehorn into all of your other game systems as you play?
Oh.
And I I want you to think on that. I'm going to start to give you a chance to look at it
Okay, 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 okay.
because um one of the things that I really love, and it's really evident in Tales from the Loop, the RPG system, because that's all powered by the apocalypse, right?
Yes.
Power,
Yeah.
yeah, powered by the apocalypse. Um, and it's you lay out your bonds and your safe spaces
Yeah.
and all of that. And something that I've been doing in my tabletop games for a really long time, and I've talked about this at length on different episodes, is the um, I know a guy, right?
Yes.
So we've got a couple younger players in our Discord that we do world building and stuff on our Discord,
Yeah.
and they're looking for different help on building worlds. And I think you weighed in on this, and David did
Oh,
for
yeah. It was
uh,
so cool to watch.
Neff a while back. And it's like, all right, well, I'm building a world or I'm starting a story. What am I going to start with? And he's like, they're going to be in a tavern. They're going to go on a quest, and they don't know it. But like, here's a bunch of like political intrigue that the players will never know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, that's all really cool, cool. And I don't mean that in a condescending, cool story, bro, sort of way. I mean it in a like, all right, you're a player at this table. What what's your hook? Your character's hook. Why do you care about where you're at? Well, you have to save the
Mhm.
city. Okay. Why? Who lives here that you care about? Well, I don't have any family. So, okay, cool. Who's your landlady? Who's the guy you buy bread from? Like if you live here, you know people naturally. That's
There's
that's how
Dobbs bread around the corner.
there's Dobbs bread around the corner.
That's the important thing to me.
But from a cementing in the world, like anytime that we run a session 0 on something that's going to be longer than, you know, 3 or
Mhm.
4 episodes, um, who are your people? What's your favorite bar in this place? Because as a game master, I don't have to write that in now. It exists. It gives some agency to the players. They tie into it.
Yeah.
And then that other mechanic that we've used before, the I know a guy is Dobbs bread or bust from chat uh, is my job as a dungeon master or a game master is to deliver unto you as players information. I have to get the hook into you,
Yes.
right? And how I do that varies from person to person.
Yeah.
Some people are very soft-handed, some people are very heavy-handed with it. And the point is to get that hook delivered. I have information that I need you as players to have so you can make interesting choices with your characters so we can tell this story.
That
And
makes
I
sense.
would argue that it does not matter whether it's you giving the hook or if it's the players giving the hook. And that um, Brennan Lee Mulligan said something in an interview a couple of years back um, where I don't remember specifically what system they were referring to, but it was a high level improv. And one of the players told him, like, I haven't, can I run this? I haven't uh, created the story in a little while, right? Like, can I explore some of this at the table? And it's kind of a cool way of thinking about it, where you give your players agency to create the world that they live in, because you don't know off the top of your head as a human being in daily life who from your past is going to be relevant at any given moment. And you could
No.
never catalog it on a piece of paper and summarize it. It's like, who are the 87 people that I worked with back in college running game stores and restaurants and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, you're never going to write all that down. And it doesn't make sense that the players are like, here are the 4 people I care about in my life. Here's my 2 pages of backstory, and like some of that is good because it gives you a jumping off point.
James, it's this is my backstory. I'm
Ugh.
a rogue.
Oh, I'm so dark and edgy. I gotta
Ugh.
I gotta keep brushing my hair out of my face
Oh
so you can
no.
see my
I'll
scars.
have to save Gotham. I mean,
I'm Batman. Yeah,
Batman.
but the idea that in a pinch, the players narratively control that is something
Yes.
that I've constantly pilfered, customized, and applied to my games. Even though there isn't really in a rule set anything for that,
Yeah.
right?
It, it
Um,
it's when we're talking about the rule sets of different games and things like that, like going back to the Iron Kingdoms thing, and one thing I like about Iron Kingdoms is, and for me, I'm a miniatures player.
mhm,
I love miniatures games.
mhm,
Iron Kingdoms is based off of a miniatures game.
yeah,
Like the whole rule set, they basically took the miniatures game and went, how do we make this an RPG?
that's how
And
D&D started though. Like
that is
it started
which
as
is
chainmail.
chainmail, yeah.
Yeah,
And they did, instead of incorporate like changing it entirely, they changed it into, you could almost take the characters built in this game and put them on a tabletop,
do
which is really neat to me.
you want to hear an interesting tidbit?
Yeah.
And I cannot confirm whether or not this is true, but I've heard it from enough avenues that it makes plausible sense. Um, Dave Arneson playing chainmail with Gary Gygax and the rest of their crew
Mhm.
um, on a tabletop at one point tried to use a piece of terrain, and they ended up arguing about having something in an arch that a miniature was under, and it spawned the whole like, but what if they're underground? What if you can't see them for extended periods of time? What if there's things underground that are hazards? Let's talk about this. What, we could call it a dungeon.
Ha!
And it started from like terrain doing this and folding over. And again, I don't know about the validity of that.
That
Um it,
sounds like such a wives' tale kind of thing, but I could totally see that.
right?
Like
Because it
100%.
at its core, that's kind of the logical step of you know, I,
I
if I ever meet Luke Gygax at a con, I'll ask him about it.
I was about to say, the thing I pictured in my brain, by the way, was the ring wraiths overlooking the hobbits as soon
Hmm.
as you just started describing that.
Yeah, cool cinematography,
Oh,
long ass movies.
okay. Oh my god. Okay, sorry, slight aside. Um, so as you know, I drink beer. I also partake in the marijuanas.
Comes in pints.
Um, so
For our
me
American
and
listeners, in Canada, you can go to a corner store and buy marijuana in many, many, many forms. It is a normal,
yes,
commonplace thing
um,
for adults.
very much so. So me and my friend decided to watch. Me and my friend and his brother decided to watch the original Lord of the Rings animated version.
Oh, the Ralph Bakshi one? I have the VHS of that somewhere in this room.
You know what the most amazing thing to do is?
Huh.
Watch that while you're bloody high. Holy
Look,
hell.
I we don't do like um the kind of content that is reactions or live views or something like that. I would absolutely get Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings and Wizards. Like you remember Wizards? The rotoscope.
Oh
Oh,
my god. Yeah.
American
Yeah,
Pop.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I would make a series of like taking some edibles and watching some old rotoscoped movies. David,
Oh, hell yes.
if you're
Let's
watching
do
this,
that.
David is one of our chief content directors for planning stuff out. David, if you're watching this, that's a thing that we need to do. Rotoscope movie viewing. You can keep the
Yes.
camera about this high up. Um,
Yep.
excellent choice,
I
my
would do
friend.
that. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, but no, we got bong high and enjoyed the hell out of that movie.
I like it.
That is a movie. That is a movie. Holy hell.
Uh, Melissa's on board from chat.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, hi, David.
Speaking of,
Yeah. So that said,
so that's it.
what would you pull from Iron Kingdoms?
Iron Kingdoms. There's a couple of things I'd pull from Iron Kingdoms. One, I like the idea of being able to pull the miniatures out and put them into large scale fights. I think that's a really cool session idea where it is a battlefield, it is a war, which really is cool to me. But also the factions in Iron Kingdoms, like there are very set factions, and I use factions a lot in my D&D storytelling or in my role playing storytelling because it gives that sense of ownership, if you
Well,
will,
that's Kobold
towards different
Press
things.
actually leaned heavily into that with Horde of the Dragon Queen when they wrote that for Wizards of the Coast with
Mhm.
the Lord's Alliance and the Emerald Enclave and everything
Yep.
else. And Tasha's leaned heavily into that too with the idea of patrons. But
Mhm.
a lot of that came through from Eberron. Like you are beholden to these corporations, these dragon marked houses. It's like
Yeah.
who is your liege? Walmart, sir. It's like, who is your liege? The Kingdom of Amazon. That's like, oh shit, they got a bigger army than us.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Also, just I don't know. The other thing that I really liked was the way their spells worked. Again, they didn't have. They don't have like you have a certain amount of spells. No, what they had was depending on the type of spellcaster you were,
Mhm.
you could there's a lot of different things. I'm just like thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Are we talking about the regular Iron Kingdoms? Depending on the type of caster you were, you would get a certain amount of mana back every turn,
Mhm.
or magic basically back every turn. And then you could keep casting spells. You had upkeep spells, which are basically concentration spells. Um, and just the way the spells worked, I like better than D&D personally.
So
Again, it's coming to the fact of it feels like a miniatures game to me.
you say this. We've been because coming up soon, we've got our Star Wars 5e system. Um,
Mhm.
and as
Which
a
I'm very much looking forward to.
as a point, Star Wars 5e doesn't really use spell slots. It uses a
Mhm.
like 95% compatible version of how spell points work from the or mana works from the Dungeon Master's Guide. I
Mhm.
don't know if you're familiar intrinsically with
I
that.
don't know that one. No,
So,
not
uh,
familiar, no.
you're slight spoilers. Riley's going to play a Jedi in a Star Wars game, and
Oh my god!
instead of having like, oh, you have like 3 first level spell slots and 2 second level spell slots, you have spell points, which is a pool of numbers. And if you want to cast a first level
Yes.
spell, it's 1 plus the level of spell in points from your pool to cast that. And you can't cast more than you
Mhm.
know. But it accurately represents for me something that GURPS does really well, which is fatigue points. And GURPS uses fatigue
It's
points in
true.
like if you're a caster, you're burning FP instead of MP to
Yeah.
cast your spells. And there's certain abilities and advantages that you can take to recover FP back faster if you're a caster and you're spending it on magic. But you also use that physical um, uh, energy, your fatigue, to do big, heavy acts of endurance and things like that. And I like
Yeah.
how the force powers or tech powers and stuff correlates with effort. I've only got so much in the tank because the
Yes.
one thing about spell slots that is kind of weird is I've cast 15 spells today and I'm drained, but I still have enough in my tank for a ninth level spell that can like alter time, right?
Yeah.
I
Exactly. And it's just like, wait, what?
yeah, because one of these things is not like the other. Um, yeah, you could upcast
Or just upcast
shield.
fireball.
Yeah, you could upcast fireball with a ninth level spell, but you don't have enough left in the tank to like handle it lower. And the
Yeah.
trouble is that spell points in like the D&D meta, they don't jive real well with things like warlocks. So a
No.
lot of the multi-classing combinations don't work, so it was never really heavily adopted. And I'm interested to see um, when we see this like revised fifth edition come through from D&D. Wizards are casters now; they have spell slots rather than pact magic. Whether or not the spell point system is gonna make it into the DMG again, because they're revising that
I,
too.
I'm kind of I am I'm very curious about all of that. And it's like I said, one of the big things that I really liked about Iron Kingdoms is that the magic users never got to the insane point that wizards do.
Yeah.
They can't just create things. They can't just do this. Magic feels balanced in Iron Kingdoms comparatively to like a high level Iron Kingdoms character still feels mortal to me. And that's something that I really like. It's
Mhm.
like, no, you're a high level adventurer. Yeah, you can fight shit. You still shouldn't go one on one versus a warjack. That thing's a tank. It's gonna pummel you.
You know, that leads into another customization that I really love. So Melissa from our stream is going to be running a Call of Cthulhu game, and whether any kind of horror-based scenario, um, and we see
Mhm.
this a little bit in the GURPS game we're running right now because we're doing Hellboy BPRD, where we're just
BPRD.
people. Monsters exist, but we're just people that have guns. And, like, there's some special things, like, your fat librarian man knows how to read runic magic and can cast little things, and I am a weird spatial anomaly that exists in the middle of everything, but Larry's just a dude with a gun, and
Yes, he is.
if he gets hit, he's dead. So he wears body armor,
Yes.
because if he takes a hit, he's dead. Like, game over.
Um,
And in Cthulhu, the whole thing of like you're just a dude, you might have a hidden talent, you might be really good at reading books.
uh, yeah, but you're a dude who will go insane.
Yeah.
Um, this is sorry, just a very quick thing here. Two things. One, first of all, the D20 Mass Effect system, freaking great, wonderful. I
that's
have
a
run it, absolutely wonderful.
that's
I
a
just saw that
comment
in
from
chat,
chat.
so I just had
Yeah.
to. Yeah, that's a comment on chat. I just had to just throw that in there. I have played it. It is wonderful. I am a huge Mass Effect fan. One day, maybe next year, I'm going to run it because it's freaking great. Anyway,
i i have
um,
I have a copy of the Mass Effect RPG, and I've never run it on stream before. We are,
great.
however,
Mass Effect
running
is
the
wonderful.
Avatar RPG system. One of our newer players, Neon, is going to run us through a 3-episode miniseries um, in end of
Oh,
November, I
Avatar: The
think.
Last Airbender.
Yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I I have heard mixed reactions about the system, but I'm
I
on
still
board.
want to give it a try. It's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I could
Exactly.
go on a tirade on hours on that. But um, the other thing is, speaking about Call of Cthulhu, this is just one of my favorite stories from Call of Cthulhu. My friend Dave, not David, who is in street or who's in chat right now. My friend Dave ran a game for 4 people, and there was a group of people in a house or like a haunted house, and one of the characters had to make a sanity check.
Yeah.
He failed, and he got the paranoia of loud noises. I cannot remember what that is called at the top of my head here right
Mhm.
now, but scared of loud noises. And the player decided to go, no, I know what this is equated to. And he hands a note back to Dave. And Dave just looks at him and goes, are you sure about this? Roll this stat. And he goes, okay. He rolls it. And the players were all like going, what? It's like, okay, it has been done. He had first watch. And the monsters come around the corner and they go, oh shit, the monsters, get the guns, get the guns. The guns are missing.
Ah, uh, oh
The
yeah.
player went, hey guys, the monsters won't come because the guns are gone. They're attracted to the loud noises. They're not going to come anymore. And all the players just looked at him and went, fucking what? And he got rid of all the guns.
I love it. I following up on chat. So the personal gripe is that fifth level characters in 5e are basically gods next to regular people. And that is 100% the case. And we leaned into that. Like that's a mechanical failing, or that's a narrative failing in a game. Um
Mm-hmm.
where like, oh, you're heroes, you're just naturally better than everybody at everything. And it led to, like, if you've read manga in the last 10, 15 years, um every manga is like, oh, you're heroes, someone from another world, you're naturally better than everyone, you're basically gods, go save us please. And that's the
Yeah,
trope that I leaned into
and
for.
power.
Hmm?
I'm going to complain about the power creep in manga here. Now, when I grew up,
There was just Goku and he was just naturally better than everybody at, oh wait, yeah.
now they've got this One
Ligrophobia,
Piece guy and
Luffy D monkey.
Ligrophobia.
Yeah. But that's the trope that I leaned into for our 5e games, is that, all right, we're just gonna own it.
Mhm.
You're all summoned here from different worlds. You're rekindled. You're naturally better because you guys used a point buy system. Everybody else is a common human from starting point if you're not a rekindled.
Yeah.
And it means that the bad guys are either super dangerous because they're also adventurers, or they're super dangerous because they were normal people and had to get into some shit to up the ante, right?
Yep. Like
Just
pull a
one of those
card
things.
from the deck of many things or something like that.
Yeah. Or, uh, be a wizard and study necromancy for forever.
God
And,
damn it.
also be a
Wizards.
Viking. Be
Wizards
a
should
Viking
not be
wizard.
that powerful.
Look, it's a thing. I cast atomic karate.
I'm
It's fine.
aware.
Um, but yeah,
Atomic karate.
one of the things that comes up too, and I'll pull it back in,
Mm.
for pilfering from other game systems that I really like.
Yes.
So GURPS has a called shot system built into it.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Right on the character sheet. What's the roll it takes to hit you in the torso? What's the roll it takes to hit you in the right arm? What about the left arm? That changes based on which arm you're wearing a shield on, kind of deal. And I love that.
Mhm.
How much of a penalty to hit is it to hit you in the torso? It's a 0. It's just like shoot them in center of the chest. You want to hit somebody right in the square in the dick, take a -3 to your shot, and you can hit them in the dick and
Yep.
have something functionally effective happen because you did that.
Uh, we call that the RoboCop shot.
Yes, 100%. Um,
um
called shots can make your game interesting if you're in the kind of party and with the kind of players that want that sort of combat. Because
yes.
especially a lot of tabletop combat devolves into, I roll the dice, I tell you my numbers, you tell me if we're done combat yet. Right?
Yeah.
I throw
Yeah.
big numbers at it
Exactly.
until it falls over and we can move on. And it can be sometimes a little draining to say, okay, now it's time to throw numbers at things until till it's dead.
Tell it's dead. And there's certain parts of it that I like about that. There's certain parts I don't. And one of, because big numbers are great. Let's be honest, big numbers are great. When you roll big numbers, being a paladin player is great. Um, but there's another thing that I like from the Dark Heresy role playing system and the Warhammer in general role playing systems.
Mhm.
Just to kind of go along with the called shots, there's the critical hit or the critical condition tables. Are you aware of these tables?
Mhm.
Um, because I just want to read out Dark Heresy crit table. Because I just love these. Because there's a lot of different types of weapons in uh the games, such as Dark Heresy and Only War and etc. 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 Such as explosive critical hits if you hit the head.
Yes.
It goes from 1, the explosion leaves the target confused. He can only take a half action on his next turn and takes 1 level of fatigue, all the way up to 10 plus, as above. Except such is the unspeakable, appalling manner in which the target was killed, that any of the targets who are within 2 meters of where the target stood must make an immediate willpower test or spend their next turn fleeing from the attacker.
Yes, 100%. Th this is where some things start to mesh because you could readily implement um, a called shot system in something like a D20 game and
Easy.
fully pull that over. Or you could get that exact same approach by implementing a madness and sanity point system like what's in the DMG for 5e. And y- okay, you've brutally murdered somebody in front of them in a very effective way. And mechanically, you rolled the number and you did more numbers than they had numbers on their side. Like just getting that out of the way. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
did a
yeah, yeah.
thing and it was cool. You
Yeah.
gotta, how do you want to do this? And if you did it so well or your narrative description was so good that everybody at the table is like, dude, fuck yeah. Then the
Dude.
people around them, if you're using sanity and madness, should absolutely either take a point of madness or it should strain their sanity. They should feel an effect like that. And like
Oh,
people are
yeah.
quick to try and bake it into a mechanism or some kind of an ability, but narratively, if you see somebody gored in half in front of you, what are you gonna do? Right? Like,
Oh,
no, I'm
speaking
fine.
of,
I still have my numbers. My numbers are okay, therefore I can
my
still
numbers
fight.
are okay. Yeah, and speaking of, rending critical hit effects, head.
Yes.
The attack tears skin from the target's face, dealing 1 level of fatigue. If the target is wearing a helmet, there is no effect. That's level 1. 10 plus. As above. I just, I love the as above. Except the target's neck spews blood in a torrent, drenching all those nearby, forcing them to take an agility test. Anybody who fails the agility test suffers a -10 penalty to his weapon skill and ballistic skills for 1 round, as his eyes or visor get filled with gore.
Mhm.
I love the
Sick.
Warhammer universe. It's so stupid.
So, another interesting tidbit, and this could be my
Hmm.
catchphrase at this point if you asked my wife. Um, do you know where do you know where the first boss battle originated from?
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me think about that for a second here. The first boss battle. Like, are we talking like video games? Or are we talking like
The first
TTRPGs? Like,
yes. Yes.
hmm.
The first time that the term
I
boss fight or boss battle, the concept where you have regular
I
enemies.
I know it's not Final Fantasy. I
It is
know
not.
it's not Dragon Quest.
It predates them by so
It's
much.
it's one of the text-based RPGs.
It is
Like
the
one of like the old original computer ones.
1975 RPG Dungeons and Dragons. Started the concept of
Really?
the final boss or the boss fight. In
The
concept.
DEG.
So there was a role playing game done on the Plato system, and it's basically like a
Mhm.
texty blip blip dungeon crawl. And it
Yeah.
was
You face the direction north.
you've got to get the orb, and the orb is in a treasure room guarded by the gold dragon. And only by defeating the dragon can you claim the orb and complete the game and be eligible for getting a high score. And it was the first instance in any kind of video or TTRPG of like obviously like this stemmed from get kill the dragon at the end of the dungeon. You fought little dudes along the way because it's D&D. Like
Yep.
D&D started in 1973. This thing came across in 75. Like, you know,
Yeah.
roots
But
being what it is.
can,
But it's interesting that like
can
go for it.
no, sorry. Finish your thought. I have a stupid experiment I want to try running here.
All right. It's the reason that I bring this up is because 4th edition, um, for however you feel about it, had a system called Bloodied. And it was Matt Colville talks about this a lot because he really enjoys 4th edition as it's a game made to be played with minis. And it's made
Yes.
specifically my critique of the system is that it removed everything about Dungeons and Dragons and turned it into chainmail again. And it made it a really
You're
effective
not wrong.
we're playing on a board. It removed all of the lore. We talked about like episode 3 or 4 of the podcast. I read you what Fireball
Mhm.
was in 3rd edition and 5th edition and what Fireball
Yes.
was in 4th edition. And it was
Yes.
like fire springs from your fingers and you chaw some shit and everybody's afraid of you and let chaos reign. And in 4th edition, it's like X4D grid deals X damage, K thanks bye,
Oh,
damage type equals fire. And it's like, oh, you took all of the like flavor and lore out of everything. And it's effective. It's basically the back end, it reads like the back end code for a database where that object is a
mhm.
button that somebody's clicking, which we talked about too. Like that's what 4th edition was designed for.
Yeah.
TTRPG tabletop or virtual
Yes.
tabletops. But,
It was designed for an actual computer. Yes.
yeah. The thing that they implemented that I thought was interesting was twofold. Minions,
Mhm.
and I've stolen minions quite
Oh,
a bit. Minions have hit points,
yep.
but they have an ability that says if you hit them once, they die. So
Yes.
they have hit points specifically for the purposes of things like sleep and
Yep.
fanning out damage and things like that, right? Um,
It's to make the characters feel epic because they're just slicing down minions left and right.
Exactly. If I'm throwing waves of skeletons at you, they're not skeletons that have like 10 hit points, they're skeletons that have 1 hit point, right? Because you feel good about it. The other side of it, and this ties into that boss battle point, is the bloodied condition of you've dropped it to half hit points. I've told you thematically and like from a game knowledge perspective, this thing is at half of its hit points. I've signaled to you as a player and I've signaled to you as a character. And now it gains more abilities. So you're in phase 2 of the fight. Because now that it's bloodied, he's
Wait,
getting more cunning and devious. He's going to be taking more called shots. He's going to be doing more damage. Tiered phases, and
he's going to be.
this
It's a Final
isn't
Fantasy boss.
this isn't even my final form.
This is a Final Fantasy boss. This is Final Fantasy 14. I'm going to use this as an example.
Yep.
In a lot of the later game fights or end game fights in
Mhm.
the Savage mode, there is the first phase, and then there's second phase. And if you get to second phase, the health bar fills up again, and you're like, frick, everything is changing.
So I love that you reference Final Fantasy 14 for that, which came out what 2016, I think.
16-ish? Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
somewhere around there. The first phased boss battle in a Final Fantasy game? Take a guess. You probably know this.
That would be Final Fantasy. It's either 4 or 5.
It's 4.
It is 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Magus sisters,
Which
where
boss was it? The Magus.
yeah, because
Yeah.
the first half of the fight is against the three of them,
One
and
of
then
the
they
sisters.
morph into the
Merge.
big old doll. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
tiered boss
Yeah.
battles, right? Or
Tiered boss battles.
shifting phases with the Mist Dragon way back when. This was I
Oh,
was 5 years old when this game came out. It was fucking revolutionary. But
it was great. I mean, and to be honest, like the final boss of Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy 3 in the United States, because they didn't know how to do numbers.
well, they didn't
And
have an
that was
American port of Final Fantasy 1, 2, or 3.
no, of 2, 3, and 4. No, 4. No, yeah, 4, because Final Fantasy 5 was Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 6 was Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And God, 3 was great. Sorry, 6 was great because the final boss, Kefka,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
And that was a 3-tiered boss?
Yep.
Or something like that?
Yep. They really doubled down on it.
All right, so I have a slight experiment here. And I just kind of want to see how this happens. Because chat has been pretty vocal tonight. And this just kind of came to my brain. And because we are the kings of side content and just getting distracted by everything. Chat, you start in a cave. To the east, there is forest. To the south, there is forest. And to the west, there is forest. But north is the cave. What direction do you go?
You're expecting a real-time answer here.
I'm expecting a real-time answer, and I know that I can't get one.
I'm just going to point out
It's
here
fine.
that the latency settings on this are set to normal, not to ultra low. So
Right.
that's a thing. One of the things.
Next time we'll do this.
if you want to have that level of engagement, feel free. That's fine. Just tell me ahead of time, and I'll change it up. Chat has responded
the
with
ridge of the cave.
I climb the ridge of the cave. I go over. I go down. I start digging. I see how it is.
You're all fired.
Riley, it won't transition to the podcast, but you know what I love most about tonight? Is that this beer started at a cool 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Now in Canada, we don't use Fahrenheit for anything that matters, except for occasionally taking the temperatures of babies. But I got myself a fancy new beer fridge over here that holds 96 cans of beer. It's so beautiful. And I can take it down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, but I can't change it to Celsius. Frigidaire. This is a problem, Frigidaire. I'm telling you, Frigidaire.
No kidding. Frigidaire.
I don't want to have to do non-metric
Frigidaire.
conversions in my head. But you know what? Can of Beans, if you're not already joined on our Discord, find the thing in the doobly-doo, and we can play this out between you and Moongazer. You guys can go on an adventure under the cave and over the cave, and we'll find it in the middle. So identify yourself on the Discord, and we'll go from there.
But I think are we calling it here? Are we calling the episode here for the final season?
My beer is about done. Season 2 is going to have you know what? We'll spoil a few little things. Before we start into season 2, or right around the beginning, we're going to be doing a in-person live episode of this. That's going to be a little different, and it's going to stream to YouTube. Riley is doing some training on his palate, and I have procured a handful of flights platters with individual glasses that fit into them, where our good producer friend David is going to test his test his tongue. Oh God, not an OnlyFans thing. Test his palate, not a construction thing. He's gonna feed Riley a bunch of beers covered in duct tape so he doesn't know what they are. And we're gonna see just how good he is. And he's gonna bear it to the world. And
Yep.
David's gonna be a real dick about it, as I have instructed him to do. And I, just to make things more confusing, will also not know what the beer is, but I'm gonna make educated guesses based on my remarkably limited palate compared to Riley's. I'm gonna be like, "This
And
tastes like kokanee." And you know what?
and
I'm
I'm
probably gonna be right.
and I myself am going to put James through the ringer at one point as well.
Oh,
When I
yeah.
start doing my Cicerone training, what I can't wait for is getting the
Fouling kits?
fouling kits, if you will, or the um, off kits. These
Hmm,
are kits that Cicerone training gives you, or you have to buy, and they basically go, "Hey, this is uh, a stringent beer. This now tastes like a stringent beer.
mhm,
Can you detect it?"
yeah. Why does it taste like cheese all of a sudden? It's
Why
very
does this
cheesy.
dry my mouth?
Yeah,
So, yes, we are going to be torturous to each other in the next season, and I am very much so looking forward to this.
I like it.
And,
Um,
not to mention we're gonna go to breweries and stuff like that, but anyway.
hmm, yeah, we have some on location
Mm.
things planned out. Um, that said, thank you everybody for stopping by. Uh, if you like what we do, please leave a comment on the video, not just in chat, but on the video itself. Like the video, it helps us out to get it out to more folks. The
Share it!
share it with your friends. It helps. Every little bit helps. We are pushing for 1,000 subs on YouTube so we can kick off some bigger, better things. Trying to get to that point. So, uh, if you
Year
if you'd
goal.
like more of this, you can find us on Monday nights streaming our different TTRPG systems. Right now, we're in the middle of a GURPS 4th edition campaign. Once that one's done, we're going to be going into Star Wars 5th edition for 4 weeks. We were selected to do some of the pre-testing and actual play stuff for Girl by Moonlight. And we're going to be magical girls, probably in mechs, I want to say. I'm going to be running that one. Call of Cthulhu after that. Riley's going to do a back-to-back 6-episode run of Pathfinder 2nd edition. And then we get into Avatar: The Last Airbender, the TTRPG system. So that's what's on the docket right now for our Monday nights. So um and of course our can of beans moongazer one shot from chat where they're going to tell a story about, you know what? I'm going to run you guys through my own TTRPG system, the dungeon crawler, the nailer system, and just see what you do with it. That sounds like an excellent idea.
Okay, I think an excellent idea would be, once we get enough viewers, is to do a dungeon crawl like the old text-based system.
Yep.
Kind of like how Twitch plays Pokemon, but
Oh
as in
God.
north, north, north,
Oh,
north, 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 north.
I had a different idea actually, and I've shifted my camera a little bit. Hidden amongst these Dungeons and Dragons books is something special, and it's right over there, and you'd have to tune in on YouTube to see it. But it's a singular chip, and it happens to be blue. And if
Do you have a second one there?
I don't, but they're easily procured. And when we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I am going to go live and do the one chip challenge for like 35 goddamn minutes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm gonna die. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be all right. Or
I'll do the chip with you. I won't do that.
I mean, we could give it to Melissa and then film that. That could be okay. I'm just glad you didn't swallow that dice as you finished your beer. I'm happy for your health in that regard.
Thank you.
But
But thank you very much, everybody, for joining tonight.
mhm. And yeah, talk it out. This will be available in I don't know a week or so, where
One
all fine
week or so.
podcasts are consumed, and we'll see you on Monday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you soon.